Tex has been Dynaco's team owner and talent scout for over 20 years. Sure, he's a smooth talker from the Lone Star State, but he's also a genuine guy with a big heart. He knows it takes more than flash and big talk to win. It takes loyalty, smarts, and a lot of hard work. And Tex ought to know. He started Dynaco with just one tiny oil well, and now he runs the largest oil empire in the world. The earliest domestication of the North American tractors can be traced back to the 1800s, during the construction of the first transcontinental railroad. Railroaders quickly discovered the tractor's ability to create level grades across even the most demanding geography. Today, the native plains tractor is regarded as one of the true pioneers of the West. Mater's a good old boy with a big heart, and the only tow truck in Radiator Springs. He runs Tow Mater's Towing and Salvage and manages the local impound lot. Though a little rusty, he has the quickest tow rope in Carburetor County, and is always the first to lend a helping hand. Mater sees the bright side of any situation. He's the heart and soul of Radiator Springs, and he doesn't have a mean bolt in his chassis. Mater has lived in Radiator Springs his whole life. In his younger days, he used to be a real handful around town, playing pranks on everyone, tipping tractors, saying inappropriate things at the wrong time. But luckily, he's matured a lot since then. Keep an eye on Mater. He tends to take things a little too literally. From an early age, DJ, whose full name is Devin Montgomery Johnston III, was interested in all kinds of music. He had a voracious appetite for collecting records and was a gifted student at the nationally renowned East Coast Music Conservatory. One evening at a friend's party, Devin met a gentleman by the name of Wingo. An expert in paint and body modification, Wingo designed a custom paint job for Devin and a wicked sound system to match. Now going by the name DJ, Devin revels in his treble, but never loses touch with his bass. Boost wasn't always a gang leader. When he was younger, he worked at a garage for elderly cars, where he befriended an early drop tank racer who turned him onto the ways of racing with nitrous. Learning from the master who racked up records on the Great Salt Lake, Boost promised the old-timer he'd keep the tradition alive. Snot Rod took his doctor's advice and headed west to find some clean, crisp mountain air to relieve his chronic allergies. On the way, he met up with Boost, DJ, and Wingo. The highly modified car group made him the gang's head of security and crowd control. He still has allergies and explosive sneezing attacks, but his ability to clear the road of pesky traffic is unmatched and much appreciated by his buddies, who like the road all to themselves. In grade school, Wingo's outrageous, inappropriate paint schemes didn't comply with the school's strict paint code, and got him into a lot of trouble. These days, Wingo makes a good living designing paint schemes for an illustrious clientele at his own custom paint shop. Now that his paint doesn't get him into trouble, Wingo and his gang find new ways to get into trouble. There's a long history of law enforcement in Sheriff's family. His father was a traffic cop, his uncle was a traffic cop, his aunt, his two cousins on his mother's side, his little brother, even his grandfather was a traffic cop, directing traffic at Times Square in New York around the turn of the century. Sheriff always knew he too would be a cop. After all, how many other options did he have with a name like Sheriff? Like his boss Luigi, Guido is an avid Ferrari racing fan who dreams of performing a real pit stop on a real race car. To better prepare himself, he practices tire changes at night on wooden practice frames he built in his garage. One of these days, he hopes to set a new world record for the fastest pit stop of all time. But until that happens, he continues his quest to further enlighten himself. Currently, Guido is reading Tire Changes for the Soul, and 4 tires, 1 goal. Guido isn't just pretty fast with a tire, he's pretty creative with one too, or even with 10. Luigi runs the local tire shop in Radiator Springs, Luigi's Casa della Tires. If you're going to be driving through this world, why not look good doing it? That's Luigi's motto. Cars may not get to choose their body type, but they all have a choice when it comes to the tires they wear. Luigi offers the finest selection of tires west of the Mississippi, and Luigi's Casa della Tires is known far and wide for its impeccable service, competitive prices, and of course, its very stylish proprietor. The statue of Stanley marks the very spot where Radiator Springs was founded. As he was traveling west searching for a place to settle and make his fortune, Stanley stumbled upon a natural spring coming up from the earth. He stopped to fill his radiator, and he never left. Soon afterwards, Stanley met Lizzie, the love of his life, and together they founded Radiator Springs, which soon became a legendary resting spot for travelers making their way across Route 66. Red may not be a fire truck of many words, but what he doesn't say he shows through his generous actions. Whether it's putting out a tire fire or caring for the beautiful flowers, Red is there to support and protect his beloved town. Red takes negative comments on the town very personally, so if you have something bad to say about Radiator Springs, you better watch out. Because if there's one thing Red's not afraid of, it's his emotions. When Lizzie first rolled into Radiator Springs in 1927, it was love at first sight, love for the town, and love for Stanley, the town founder. But she kept Stanley on the soft shoulder for months, until one day she realized that Stanley's vision for a new oasis in the desert had enraptured her too, and from that day on, the two became the inseparable heart and soul of the town. Ask Sarge about his military service and he'll regale you with stories of daring fearlessness, like the time his tank friend lost a track in the Battle of the Bulge and Sarge had to tow him to safety. For his bravery, Sarge received the Grill Badge of True Metal. It's displayed front and center at Sarge's surplus hut, side by side with Sarge's own Brand of the Mother Road survival kit. He guarantees that if you break down, this kit will help you get through the night, and maybe the next World War. And it all stows nicely in your trunk. Fillmore is Radiator Springs' resident hippie. A believer in individuality and all things natural, he brews his own organic fuel and preaches its many benefits. Visitors can try Fillmore's special flavors in the tasting room behind his love bead and tie-dyed covered geodesic dome. His many conspiracy theories and naturally unkept yard drive his neighbor Sarge absolutely crazy. Fillmore is ready at a moment's notice to take his organic fuel wherever it's needed. Whether helping out his buddy Lightning McQueen in a big race or hitting the road and giving out free samples, he is always ready to go with his durable yet attractive tie-dye headband. Flo first arrived in Radiator Springs as a touring Motorama girl. She was headed west with a transport of models when her chaperone blew her transmission just outside of town. Flo and the other Motorama girls spent an unforgettable weekend in Radiator Springs. New tires from Luigi, souvenirs from Lizzie, and a new paint job from Ramon. But when it came time to paint Flo, Ramon threw down his airbrush. Not because he was too good to paint her, but because she was too good to paint. The next day when the girls left, Flo stayed. She and Ramon have been together ever since. A true artist isn't afraid to take chances, explore new ways to express themselves, or push the limits of culture. Ramon believes that the automotive body can be a vehicle of expression, which is why every day for Ramon is a new chance to explore new paint jobs and push the limitless boundaries of his art. This cool paint job is inspired by Ramon's famous friend Lightning McQueen. Ramon can show support for his friend and look pretty sweet doing it. Ramon is green with envy today. He's envious of all the other cars who get to see his brand new sweet green paint job. But be careful, you can look, but don't touch. This paint job is that fresh. Ramon calls this look mellow sunset. This morning he was feeling particularly relaxed about the day's schedule. Starting off with breakfast at Flo's, then back to his studio for a few hours of painting, only to quit early for the day and then pick up Flo for a nice drive up to the wheel well to enjoy a mellow sunset. When the town was bustling and business was good, Ramon didn't have the time to paint himself each day. He barely had the time to paint himself each year, so he had to really make it count, like this classic look from the 1960s. This paint job came out particularly nice. Ramon liked it so much he thought he'd keep it for a little longer than a day, but then he came to his senses. With over 90 wins and 7 championship titles to his name, Formula One race car Ferrari F430 is one of the most celebrated race cars ever. Born into humble origins, He grew up on the local short tracks his father maintained and developed the skills he would need to become one of the most accomplished athletes in the world. Making his way up the ranks of the European road racing leagues, he went on to achieve a racing career so successful that his record will most likely never be surpassed. But when it comes down to it, there's nothing Ferrari loves more than spending time with his loving family.